Today we're going to share a story. It's an astonishing one and deeply unsettling. It happened in Andover, England, back in 2003. It all begins with something truly horrific. In a place called Boost Green Alley, a 14-year-old boy, John, was found. Well, he'd been stabbed severely, multiple times. His friend Mark, who was 16, he's the one who called for the ambulance, and he insisted, that some attacker wearing a hood had ambushed them. John's injuries were critical. The knife went through his liver, his lung, his stomach. His heart even stopped beating twice. The medical teams, they performed emergency surgery. They really fought to save his life. And the police, they immediately started an investigation. Mark was their key witness, obviously. But the truth, they eventually uncovered. Well, it was far more twisted, more unbelievable than anyone could possibly have imagined.
Yes, and what's really compelling about this case right from the start is how that seemingly straightforward witness account, it just started to unravel. It revealed this profound psychological complexity, all deeply tangled up with the online world, which was still relatively new back then.
Exactly. To really get this, you need to go back to the early 2000s. The internet was just becoming common, affordable, And online chat rooms, things like MSN Chat, they were hugely popular in the UK, super easy to use. And crucially, there was no real identity verification. So people could create fake names, nicknames, whole new identities, really. It was a place where lots of teens went to find friends or even, romance. So February 2003, Mark, he's 16, tall, good-looking, popular football player type from Stockport. He goes into a Manchester chat room looking for a girlfriend. And he comes across his user, Rachel Estevez. Rachel says she's 16. Her profile pic. A really pretty blonde girl. Mark and Rachel start chatting every day. And pretty quickly it becomes an online relationship, that boyfriend and girlfriend. Mark would often use his webcam so Rachel could see him. But Rachel, she never, ever turned hers on. Never showed her face. But despite that, their relationship got intense. They even got into what people called cybersex back then.
It is curious, isn't it? That lack of visual confirmation. It didn't seem to raise a major alarm for Mark at the time, but that's often how it works in these online deceptions. The anonymity can sometimes create a false, maybe even heightened sense of intimacy. The person fills in the blanks with their own desires.
Right. So Rachel then introduces Mark to her younger half-brother, John, the boy who later gets stabbed. He's 14. John's life. It's pretty sad, actually. Dad left early on. He was small, thin, quiet. Smart in school, but got bullied a lot. Didn't really have many male friends.
And it's ironic, the contrast between Mark, the popular kid, and John, the quiet one. It actually seemed to get them closer. They found common ground, video games, football, talking about girls, and interestingly, crime thrillers. Their absolute favorite movie, Catch Me If You Can. The film about a brilliant imposter.
Yeah. The irony is chilling. Looking back, it almost feels like foreshadowing, doesn't it? So then, April 2003, a new user pops up in their chat room. Kevin Negretter. Yeah, Kevin announced he's gay, loves shoes, and calls himself a psychopath. Says he enjoys stalking people. He's crude, insulting. Mark just thinks, okay, another internet troll, ignore him. But John and Rachel, they act terrified. They claim Kevin has actually stalked John, followed him home. And then Kevin starts dropping information. Personal secrets about Mark, details about his online relationship with Rachel, even with John, places they'd talked about. That's when Mark starts to get really worried. Maybe this Kevin guy isn't just a troll. Maybe he's actually dangerous. Then it escalates. Kevin starts blackmailing Mark. He demands Mark perform cybersex for him on webcam. If Mark refuses, Kevin says he'll find Rachel, rape her, and kill her. Mark is desperate. He wants to protect Rachel, so he does it. Rachel is incredibly grateful, tells him he shouldn't have, but she appreciates it so much, and somehow this whole horrible incident just makes Mark feel even closer to her. So Mark and Rachel finally plan to meet in real life.
First time ever, in Andover, at a shopping center. Mark travels there, really excited. He waits and waits for hours. Rachel never shows up. He's heartbroken. He goes home completely dejected, and when he gets home, there's an email waiting for him from Kevin. The email describes, in horrific graphic detail, how Kevin supposedly abducted Rachel, raped her, and murdered her. Mark is absolutely shattered, crushed by guilt. He feels like he failed her. His schoolwork suffers. His whole life just tanks. And John, he acts devastated too, grieving for his lost sister.
And you see how Mark's vulnerability at this point, combined with John's feigned grief, just sets the stage perfectly for the next layer of manipulation. It's incredibly calculated.
It really is. So Mark stays offline for a while, just trying to cope, but eventually he goes back to the chat room, and he meets someone new, Lindsay Isles. They start talking. Mark pours out his heart about Rachel, his grief. Talking to Lindsay helps. He starts feeling a bit better. And very quickly, Mark and Lindsay become an item, an online couple. And just like with Rachel, there's cybersex. Lindsay asked Mark to perform acts on webcam for her too. Then one day, Lindsay revealed something huge. She tells Mark she's actually an MI6 agent, a British spy, and her mission, to protect John. Because Kevin, the guy who supposedly killed Rachel, is now after John. Mark, remember, loves crime thrillers. He's completely captivated by this, an MI6 agent. He's eager to help Lindsay protect John. The very next day, Mark gets an email from Lindsay. She says it's an automated message. It only sends if she dies on a mission. And the email pleads with Mark. He has to continue her mission. He has to protect John. Mark is convinced Lindsay is dead. But the weirdness doesn't end there. Suddenly, Rachel's old account comes back online. Mark's dead girlfriend. He messages her, completely confused. This Rachel claims she wasn't dead, just in a coma for months.
Yeah.
And she's pregnant. With Mark's child, Mark's head must have been spinning. He had never even met Rachel in person. Then the Rachel account just vanishes again, offline. Not long after, another new user appears. Janet Dobinson. Janet posts in the chat room saying she's looking for a talented 16-year-old boy. Mark, thinking maybe it's related to the MI6 stuff, messages her immediately. Janet says she's 40, a high-ranking MI6 officer, and she was Lindsay's boss. Mark is still a bit wary, but he starts asking questions about MI6 and Janet. She answers everything perfectly. Detailed answers. She types in all capital letters, uses spy jargon. She completely convinces Mark she's the real deal, an MI6 superior. He agrees to join MI6. Janet tells him, okay, before you're officially in, you need to pass a test. Your mission, protect John, your friend. Mark asks why John is so important, and Janet reveals this incredible secret. John, she claims, holds secret codes from the Queen herself, codes that unlock a giant safe hidden deep under the Atlantic Ocean, filled with priceless royal jewels and treasure.
It sounds like something straight out of a spy movie plot, doesn't it? Tailor-made for a teenager who loves thrillers.
Absolutely. So Mark starts his secret mission. He follows John everywhere, school after school, hanging out, watching him, protecting him. He reports back to Janet online. And Janet seems to know everything already. She says, oh, there are other agents watching too, evaluating you, Mark. Next mission from Janet. Get John to skip school. But don't let the teachers catch on. Mark manages it, makes up a story about a dentist appointment for John. But word gets back to John's mom that he skipped school. She checks his computer, finds chats with Mark and this Janet. She gets worried, goes straight to Mark's house, talks to his mom. Mark's mom checks his computer too, finds the Janet chats. Both moms freak out. They think their sons are being groomed or scammed online. They ban both boys from using computers, from the internet. Grounded. But after a while, Mark finds a way back online, sneaks on. Janet contacts him immediately. Urgent mission. She says she can't explain why. The mission, Mark has to make John appear to be gay. And the way to do it, Janet tells Mark he needs to do something sexual with John. Janet really stresses this. It's critical. If he fails, she says, the government might get rid of her.
This is his final test, his MI6 initiation. Mark believes her. He agrees. So the next weekend, Mark arranges a sleepover at John's house. That night, they watch porn together. And then, Mark does what Janet ordered. He performs oral sex on John. Janet's thrilled. Tells Mark online, you passed. Welcome to MI6. Mark feels amazing. He's finally an agent. But that feeling doesn't last long. Janet then asks him a truly chilling question. Are you ready, she asks, to kill someone you're close to? Mark thinks, okay, this must be another test, like a psychological question for spies. So he just says yes, without really thinking. But it wasn't just a question. It was his next mission. Janet orders Mark to murder John, his best friend.
Can you even imagine the state of Mark's mind at this point? He's never hurt anyone. The Janet provides this warped justification. She tells Mark that John has a brain tumor, that killing him would actually be mercy, a form of euthanasia to stop his suffering, and she offers him money, 10 million pounds, from MI6.
And then, the most chilling part. A few days later, John himself tells Mark that he just went to the doctor. And they found something. A brain tumor. Mark is stunned. Janet knew it must be true. This somehow convinces him that killing John is the right thing to do. A mercy killing. For his friend and for MI6. He accepts the mission. Janet sets the date. June 29, 2003. She tells Mark to pick the spot, get the knife, take John somewhere private. Right before, Janet gives one last instruction. Tell John you love him. And she promises. Agents will extract Mark from the scene afterwards. Oh, and one more thing. If the code 5796 then appears, somehow, anywhere, the mission is off. Abort. June 29th arrives. Mark follows the plan. He asks John to go with him to buy a kitchen knife. They buy one. Then they just walk around. Mark leads John towards Boo's Green Alley. That secluded spot. Mark is hesitating. He's incredibly anxious. He keeps looking around, desperate, hoping to see that code, 6969, anything to call it off. But there's nothing. Finally, he turns to John. He says the words Janet told him to say, I love you, mate. Then he pulls out the knife and he stabs John. Once in the chest, John falls down.
He's in agony. He begs Mark, call an ambulance.
But Mark tells him to be quiet. He drags John deeper into the alley, out of sight. He sees the chest wound. Maybe it wasn't fatal, so he stabs John again. This time in the stomach. John goes still. Mission accomplished. Mark waits. He expects Janet or MI6 agents to appear any second, to pick him up, take him away, but nobody comes. He waits and waits. Nothing. Silence. Finally, getting desperate, Mark uses his own phone. He calls the ambulance himself. When the police and paramedics get there, Mark tells them the story he rehearsed. The hooded attacker jumped them both, stabbed John. The police, they don't know anything about MI6 or secret missions. They put out an alert for a hooded suspect based on Mark's description. But of course, they find nothing. No leads. Then they check the CCTV, the cameras covering the entrance to Booth's Green Alley, and the footage shows something undeniable. It shows Mark and John walking into the alley together. And then no one else enters. And no one leaves. Until Mark comes out alone to make the call. Suddenly, Mark isn't the witness anymore. He's the only suspect. Attempted murder. Faced with the video evidence, Mark can't deny it.
He admits it. Yes, I stabbed John. But then he tries to explain. He says voices told him to. He talks about MI6, Janet, protecting secrets. He's terrified he'll be disposed of if he reveals too much. But the police, they just don't buy it. It sounds completely made up, like a fantasy story, an excuse. So Mark is taken into custody, sent to a juvenile facility. He waits there, day after day, expecting Janet or someone from MI6 to contact him, to rescue him. But no one comes, no agents, no messages, nothing. Then he gets news. John survived. The doctors saved him. Mark's under incredible stress. He thinks his life is over. John will wake up, point the finger, confirm everything. He can't take it anymore. He asks to speak to the police again, and this time he tells them everything. The whole story. Rachel, Kevin, Lindsay, Janet, MI6. The secret codes, the treasure under the sea, all of it. And the police listen. Maybe it's the detail. Maybe it's Mark's genuine distress. They start to wonder. Mark insists, check my computer. It's all there. The chats.
And when they did check Mark's computer, they found exactly what he said. Thousands upon thousands of lines of chat logs with Rachel, Kevin, Lindsay, and this Janet Dobinson. At first, police thought maybe it was some incredibly sophisticated online predator who groomed Mark, but then analyzing the massive amount of text, over 58,000 lines, they found something, a tiny detail.
A typo, wasn't it?
Exactly, a consistent typo.
Every single one of those accounts, Rachel, Kevin, Lindsay, Janet, they all misspelled the word maybe. They typed it maybe without the E every single time. And the police realized the odds of 4, maybe 5 different people all making that exact same specific typo over and over again, it's basically impossible. Had to be one person behind all those fake accounts. So the police go straight to John's house. They need to check his computer. And on John's computer, they find the proof. Login records. Someone had accessed the Janet Dobinson account from that very machine. It meant the person pretending to be Janet, the MI6 spy master manipulating Mark, had to be someone living in John's house. After putting it all together, checking IP addresses, digital footprints, the police confirmed the almost unbelievable truth. John himself had created every single one of those characters. Rachel Estevez, Kevin McGregor, Lindsay Isles, Janet Dobinson. John orchestrated the entire thing. He built this elaborate fantasy world online, step by step, to lure Mark into attacking him.
When the police confronted John with this, in the hospital he was recovering by then, his reaction was surprisingly calm. He confessed to everything. He explained his life, strict parents, bullied at school, no real friends. The online world became his escape, his comfort zone.
He said he created Rachel just to feel what it was like to be loved, to be in a relationship. Then he introduced his real self, John, through Rachel. But Mark fell harder for the fake Rachel. John got jealous. He wanted Mark's attention just for himself. So he invented Kevin, the psycho stalker, to kill off Rachel, get rid of the competition. When Mark was heartbroken and left the chat rooms, John panicked. He created Lindsay to pull Mark back into his orbit. And then, as the lies got bigger and more complicated, he created Janet, the MI6 plot. It was all about making Mark focus on him, John, protecting him. When even that felt like a dead end, he decided he wanted to die. And he used his real diagnosis, the brain tumor, as the final convincing piece of the puzzle to get Mark to do it. The level of manipulation is just staggering. Creating 5 distinct personalities, maintaining those lies across tens of thousands of messages. He completely trapped Mark in this reality he'd built. So May 28, 2004, court time. Mark, being a minor, was charged with attempted murder, found guilty, and John. He made legal history in England, the first person ever charged with and found guilty of inciting his own murder. Because they were both young, the sentences focused on rehabilitation, not just punishment. John got 3 years probation, therapy, total internet ban. Mark got 2 years probation, and also an internet ban. The court saw them both, in a way, as victims of this whole tragic, tangled situation. This story, Mark and John's story, it's such a chilling example of how the online world can warp reality, how it can mess with people's minds, especially when people are looking for connection, for validation, through identities that aren't even real.
It really makes you question how easily truth gets bent out of shape online. And maybe more importantly, it shows the extreme, desperate things people might do to feel seen, to feel loved, or even just to feel something. When those needs aren't being met in their actual lives, the results can be, well, devastatingly tragic.
If you found this story as disturbing and thought-provoking as we did, please consider liking this video, sharing it, and subscribing to our channel, Horror Docs. We bring you unsettling stories like this regularly. Thanks for tuning in today. Take care of yourselves out there. We'll see you next time.